Welcome back to Fresh Corduroy. I'm your host, Craig Zolan. Today we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most essential and misunderstood parts of modern skiing, snowmaking. And we're doing it with the perfect guest. I'm joined by Taylor Ogilvie, CEO of TechnoAlpin USA, the world leader in snowmaking systems. Taylor's worked everywhere, from Beaver Creek to Vail to transforming Mount Brighton and Wilmot, and now sits as the center of how mountains across the country guarantee winter when Mother Nature doesn't. We get into everything. Taylor's ski school beginnings in Vail at age 4, how snowmaking really works, yes, humidity matters more than you think, why today's machine-made snow often skis better than natural, automation, energy efficiency, and how AI is quietly reshaping the future of winter, and the wild ways snowmaking systems help with fire mitigation, water storage, and year-round mountain operations. Whether you're a skier who loves the product, a tech geek who loves the systems, or just curious how your home mountain actually opens on time, this episode is packed. Now, let's get some fresh corduroy with Taylor. Taylor, welcome to Fresh Corduroy.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Good to have a conversation with you. But before we get into all things snowmaking, let's start with the Taylor skiing origin story. Where and when did you get started skiing, and when did you know you fell in love with the sport?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, and the first time I ever skied actually was my parents took my sister and I when we were 3 and 4 to Vail, and we stayed in Lion's Head. And so my first time skiing was in the Vail Ski School, actually. And then, it was like something that my parents told me that I don't really remember that at 4 years old, but it was something that I loved doing from, the start. It was like something that I always talked about, and my parents and so they really cultivated that, like throughout growing up. Did trips out west, skied locally, went to places like Wilmot Mountain, Devil's Head, like places up in Wisconsin. And, and crazy enough, like later in my career, I ran Wilmot Mountain and renovated it when I worked for Vail Resorts. But it was one of those things where I just fell in love with the sport from a very early age. And, I switched to snowboarding in 1988. And I kind of do both now. I came back to skiing again later in life. But cool, I'm definitely better at snowboarding than I am at skiing. I'm kind of a hack on 2 planks. So.
Well, we won't hold that against you.
Yeah, no, thanks.
No problem. I tried snowboarding once in my life, and I'm dating myself. It was a wooden Burton board, so very, very early days. And I wore, Timberland work boots as the shoes. So,
yeah, my first snowboard boots were Sorels. So, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I make up for my lack of skiing, like technical prowess, by just skiing really fast. So
that'll work.
It's a technique.
Yeah. So you mentioned running Wilmot. You've obviously been in the ski industry for a while. How did you come to TechnoAlpin and start managing a snowmaking operation?
Yeah. So I worked at many resorts. I worked for Vail Resorts for almost 20 years. When I started, we had 4 ski areas there, but then, things kind of grew. I started at Beaver Creek, then I was at Vail. I was running what they call skier services now in Lion's Head. But from even in Beaver Creek, starting in probably like 2005, I got really involved in summer capital projects. Because you need a job during the summer, and before you get kind of your big boy year-round ski job, you need to make things work. And I always found the mountain ops side of things. I loved it. I'm kind of a lift dork, snowmaking dork. All things technical on the ski mountain, like how it really works. And so, as my career evolved, and then I got involved in running resorts once the whole Midwest urban strategy started, in with Vail Resorts with John Garnsey. I went and did the renovation at Mount Brighton. It was a lot of snowmaking there. Then Wilmot, a lot of snowmaking there. And then I kind of ended my time at Vail Resorts as the VP of urban ski areas. And, obviously snowmaking is a integral part of the ski areas. They wouldn't exist without it. And, it was time for me to change things. I had kids at home. I was traveling a lot at that time. And so, I left Vail Resorts on great terms. There's still lots of friends there. But, I started doing some consulting. I had the opportunity to consult people that were doing some very big projects internationally, including like the Beijing Olympics kind of lead up and helping them review a lot of proposals from different manufacturers. And snowmaking was part of that. They ended up going 100% TechnoAlpin. That was before I was with the company. I had nothing to do with that other than reviewing that proposal and saying that it was cool. But I, then in 2019, TechnoAlpin was looking for a CEO for the U.S. and kind of the stars aligned, and I hit it off with the ownership at TechnoAlpin, and here I am 6 years later, still here. So
that sounds great, and very cool. You mentioned the big boy jobs that are year round versus
Right.
those that are seasonal. It's as you know, an episode recently was with Greg Willis, Senior Director of Skier Services at
Yeah.
Vail. And we didn't pull on that thread, which is obviously, being a ski instructor or something else is oftentimes seasonal. And
Yeah.
so you may need another role. I don't want to get too distracted here, but I think it's interesting for those that are, intrigued by careers in the ski industry. It's, how one cobbles together a wintertime, job with something in the summertime within the industry. And it sounds like doing some, major capital improvement, whether it be a lift or snowmaking or, lodge construction or whatever
Yeah.
the case may be.
Whatever they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be a way to keep one's finger on the pulse. It sounds like that's what you did and how you grew your career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are opportunities. It's not, no one's going to say that it's easy to just like move to a ski town and make like life work as a career. And it's probably quite a bit harder at this point than when I did it, just because of, especially just housing cost is so much. It's always been bad, but it's difficult, and I did some jobs. Like one summer I was like running lawnmowers at Cordillera, like just mowing a golf course. And then I really didn't, and then landscaping, and which I really didn't like. But, it made it so that I could stay in the valley. And I was, I was married, and then I had kids, and I'm, trying to raise kids in the valley and survive and buy a house and everything else. Like you just kind of do what comes up. And, on the mountain, I did, lots of things that you mentioned I was involved in. But there were funny summers where like in Vail, we had to harvest all the beetle kill on the Lion's Head side of the mountain. And because this was in like, I don't know, probably like 2009, 2008. And there was like the pine beetle was just like wreaking havoc. And so we had all these hazard trees. So there was a Sawyer crew that went through and cut them down. The Forest Service wanted some barriers on the mountain, and it was like, so I ended up building like 4 miles of buck rail fence with a crew for a summer. And so it's like, it's about finding the opportunities to stay involved and making it happen. And if you stay long enough and you're dedicated to it, and it's a mix of like luck and hopefully some talent. I don't know if I have that or not, but there are opportunities. You get to the point where like Greg Willis is a great example. Like Greg and I worked together at Beaver Creek 25 years ago, and as instructors, and then like we both kind of moved into management around the same time. And you can get there. It just takes there's some suffering involved. There's some bad jobs involved.
Yeah, well, look, every career goes through that that phase of suffering. Some are out on the mountain and some are stuck in a cubicle. So really,
For sure. Yeah.
depends on what view you'd like. So let's turn back to snowmaking and TechnoAlpin. For those who don't know, what is TechnoAlpin? What do you guys manufacture, and how do you support the industry more broadly?
So TechnoAlpin, we're a snowmaking company. There were three founders originally. They were in South Tyrol in Italy. It's the part of Italy that speaks predominantly German, and there's a long history there that we won't get into on this podcast. But it is a ski region of Italy. There will be Olympic events there this year, in January starting, which is very exciting. And so our headquarters is in Bolzano, which is only it's 100 kilometers south of Innsbruck. So it's like it's in Italy. I tell people it's like Austria with better food. So our production is there. Our headquarters is there. The first snow gun was built in 1983. The company incorporated as TechnoAlpin in 1990, and then it came to the U.S. and it really went worldwide in 2002. So we've had a presence in the U.S. since 2002. We originally started in Park City, was the first world headquarters in 2002, which was like one guy. And we're now based in Denver. We have a 25,000 square foot facility here, warehousing. We can refurbish guns. We still build everything in Italy, but that's who we are. We have 2,400 customers in 55 countries. We are the market leader in snowmaking. One thing that I think kind of is about it, we're the yellow guns. If people are skiing, they're wondering what. Other than if you go to Deer Valley and we're the green guns because it's Deer Valley. Right. And at Keystone, we're black guns. So,
okay.
If you buy enough guns from us, we'll make them any color you want. But predominantly, when you see yellow guns, that's TechnoAlpin.
So sort of like Ford, but a little different in that you can have, a Model T in any color you want as long as it's black.
Right, yeah. And, for us, at a certain threshold, we will customize for you. Yes. But, yeah, I mean, we do automation. We do not make manual equipment, so kind of like old school equipment. Everything's automatic. We do that for efficiency and all of that. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of who we are in a nutshell.
Yeah, when we spoke, the first time we spoke, you mentioned that, obviously TechnoAlpin is the leader in the industry, like the market leader, in terms of size, albeit the U.S. market is a little bit more fragmented than Europe, perhaps. Is that simply because of, when TechnoAlpin entered the market here, or other dynamics involved?
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. is the birthplace of snowmaking, actually. Yeah. So they're the companies that really were the innovators at the beginning of snowmaking before it went to Europe, before TechnoAlpin happened. They're here and they're still around, and whether that be SMI or Ratnik or HKD, and so our market here it's got to be the most competitive snowmaking market in the world, which is actually good for the U.S. ski areas that there's not one totally dominant player. It probably gets them better deals than they would if there was one choice or a duopoly or something. So it's pretty evenly split between the three, kind of between us, SMI, and HKD, and it's actually kind of great because there's choices for customers. And I mean, if someone walks up to, I'm at a trade show and someone walks up to a booth that's looking for manual equipment, they have an alternative. It's not us, so that's okay. So
before we begin geeking out, right, on equipment and the like, how does this translate into the guest experience? Because at the end of the day, I think everyone who's listening is a skier. First and foremost, they enjoy skiing. They may be involved in the industry, or they may not be. And at the end of the day, snowmaking is pretty integral to what they're doing and their enjoyment of it. So how would you think of snowmaking and the guest experience, whether it be length of season or just the quality of the snow, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So obviously, like, length of season is huge with snowmaking. It's insurance. Like, in Colorado right now, I'm looking out the window. It's another warm day. It's sunny. The mountain's got a little bit of snow, but it used to be that, like, before people had decent snowmaking, if you didn't get the natural snow, you just weren't open. And U.S. ski areas learned, like, especially in the late 70s, there were some really bad winters in the West, where in places like where they didn't believe they needed snowmaking. That was like a weird Eastern thing or Midwest thing. And then they were, like, not open at Christmas, and that's tough, during the holiday time. So snowmaking gives insurance that there's going to be a decent product out there and something to ski on for the guest. Like, the evolution of snowmaking is that, like, we're not making ice anymore. I think there's still a stigma about machine-made snow. I don't really call it artificial snow because it's not artificial. It's made of water, just like normal snow.
Right.
We can make good snow, and the evolution of the equipment, especially with automation, is that, like, rather than having, like, human error and some dude standing out in the middle of a run getting shellacked by water, like, trying to see if anything's going to bounce off his jacket, and having to go to every single gun to do that, like, of course you were going to make bad snow sometimes because there's just, like, you can't have enough people to deal with a system like that. With automation, with what the equipment that is made now, the machines are constantly adjusting based off the humidity and the weather. And so you're having a better product. You might be skiing on something that you think is, freshly groomed natural snow. It feels like it, but it's actually, came from snow producers. So, yeah.
It's pretty critical in today's operations that I know here in the East where I am, they wouldn't open.
Yeah.
Frankly, they probably wouldn't open all year round. It might be limited to a few days with natural snow. It's gotten to that point. So it's obviously essential to the industry to have a good snowmaking system. I think people wouldn't be booking ski trips and planning that far in advance if they didn't exist.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can book a trip for the holidays, for late December, and know that they're going to be open.
Yeah.
And, if without snowmaking, that is not a foregone conclusion, with very few exceptions.
Yeah. So let's talk about how it works. You mentioned,
Okay.
making ice.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't do that.
No.
Except maybe in a scenario where you're prepping a hill for a World Cup race. But
Yeah, that's a different game.
We could talk about that. But so, what is you mentioned it's adjusting for humidity. So what are the necessary ingredients to snowmaking, and what does one have to account for in order to produce good snow?
Yeah. Okay. So fundamentally, it's air and water. That's all you need. But like to grow from there, you need electricity. You need water that's pumped to locations all over the mountain. So you need pipes all over the mountain. You need electricity. You need air. And air is a funny thing. So there's two kinds of snowmaking guns fundamentally. So there's air water guns, which you'll see as like sticks or lances, as people call them. Or you'll see ground guns, which are like the classic, the ones that you hear like roaring like a jet engine out there.
Yeah.
So there's air from a compressor plant going through pipes to all these locations all over the mountain, and there's water that is pumped at high pressure going all over the mountain to hydrants, and they're mixing and they're nucleating, so the air and water are mixing, and the water molecules are basically like exploding to a very fine molecular level, so that when they get up in the air, they can crystallize like snow. So that's air water. And then fan guns, which are like kind of the big jet engine looking things that you see everywhere. those, they have onboard air. So typically there are hill air fans out there, but it's kind of a rare bird, especially in the U.S. So there you have an onboard compressor, and then you're just pumping high pressure water to the machine, and that's projecting. So it's doing the same thing. It's nucleating water, and all the nozzles that you see kind of around the big fan that pushes out, those nozzles, the colder it is, the more of those nozzles that can be on, and the more flow you can put through the machine. That's all that's happening. I mean, that's what's happening with snowmaking.
And just to throw one other variable into the mix is humidity, right? I understand. Yeah. I know people talk about, and I know the term, but I don't remember the calculus. But wet bulb.
Yes.
But basically, your humidity plays a role. Ambient humidity plays a role in at what temperature you can make snow versus another.
Yeah, and so wet bulb is, yes, that's the what they throw around and very rarely explain what it actually is. So if you take an old mercury thermometer and get it wet and take it outside, it actually will read differently than if it's dry. And that has to do with the humidity in the air and the way that water condenses on the thermometer. So that's why it's called wet bulb, by the way. But what does it actually mean? What does it do? The magic number is around 28. 28.5 is like what people say. And so you can be, depending on the humidity out, you can actually be at like 32 as like the air temperature, but your wet bulb, and this has to do with dew point and all that other crazy stuff that you see on the weather that, I mean, for the most part, you're like, I don't even know what that means, but, or at least I am sometimes. Okay. And then, and so you hit it'll be 32, but wet bulb is 28.5, you can make snow. And it is why you'll sometimes see being like, how are they making snow right now? It's above freezing. And that's where the wet bulb temp falls in. But like as the average person that's watching the weather, if the weather's going to be below 28 on the forecast, in general, don't worry about wet bulb. They're going to be able to make snow.
Got it.
Yeah.
So for the average skier,
yep.
I guess, there's always a question of like, why aren't they making snow now? Or you just articulated how are they making snow right now? Which is
right.
But there's the other flip side might be, why aren't they making snow? They still have only 50% of the trails open, and
right.
And it seems to be cold enough. So
I mean, there's a lot of factors, and
this may not be just this may not just be a snowmaking machine.
They're all running a business out there,
right?
So that's one thing, and so it could be cold. An example I would give is, okay, it could be really cold for like a day, or they have temps for only 2 hours at night, or whatever, or they're looking at the weather forecast, and you're in Tahoe, and the Pineapple Express is supposed to hit the next, in 5 days. And you're going to lose all that snow. So you don't make snow because you're wasting money. That's why. Yeah. The other reason is, all the mountains, all of them have different situations with the utilities. They have different situations with how much water they're allowed to use. If they could be drawing from like a stream that the flow is, if it goes below a certain amount, it limits the amount of water they can pull out, or they can't pull out any water. They could have a reservoir where they're waiting for a really cold spell because they know they only have a certain amount of water left, and they want to have the best conversion they possibly can of that water to snow with no loss. I would say those are the main reasons why you would be wondering, like, why aren't they making snow? And that's probably one of those is 95% of the time. One of those is probably why.
You mentioned, water conversion and obviously water flow. I've talked about it on other episodes around, conservation of water and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And I'll get into some other uses, but water obviously is one of the two ingredients. How does that fit into conservation efforts, and managing natural resources. When we spoke initially, you mentioned something that sort of was interesting in terms of it's not a I forget how you phrased it, but we're not depleting the resource. So
Right, it's non-consumptive.
yeah,
So, right, like, so essentially, like, I like to tell people, you're using tourist dollars to create a frozen reservoir on the side of a mountain. And there's some people are like, oh, what doesn't some of the water evaporate and whatever? And yes, it does. But like water in a lake evaporates, water in a stream evaporates. We don't evaporate at some rate that's like special outside of what nature normally does to water. So, especially in the West where water, is not that the East hasn't had droughts this year, has not been great with water in the East. But generally it's, water managers are looking at, okay, they're going to put X million gallons of water on the side of this mountain. That means we know that we have that many million gallons of water. They're going to make their way into irrigation canals or rivers or whatever that can be used for, whether it be for drinking water or agriculture or whatever. So it's not like we're wasting water. Sometimes I hear people that are like, oh my God, this is such a waste of water. There's already, a shortage of water in the West or in Utah or Colorado or whatever. And the water's going to be there when you need it, which is during the summer months. It's not going away. And there's, there are rules about like, you're not sucking a stream dry and killing all the fish or something. Like there's minimum stream flows. It's very well established. There's a lot of rules around it. And like the skiers follow those rules because they don't want to lose their right to do, their livelihood. So, yeah.
You mentioned droughts and obviously having water, here in the East, we've had, pretty dry summers. Last fall, roughly this time last year, there was a forest fire literally, within a mile or two of where I sit currently in the Berkshires. And the local ski area actually, one, had helicopters coming in and scooping from their reservoir to help douse the fire. And two, the fire got close enough to the area where they actually turned the snowmaking guns on, pointed into the forest, into the woods, to wet down the area to prevent the fire from encroaching the ski area boundary. I imagine being in the industry, you kind of hear about those stories where either the water stores, the reservoirs, are depleted because of drought or because of other emergency use or deploying snowmaking equipment for purposes other than making snow.
Right. Yeah, no, I would say that the depletion, like having super scoopers or helicopters pulling water out of snowmaking reservoirs, the amount of water that they're taking is so small compared to the overall storage that it doesn't matter. And also like running your snowmaking equipment to, either wet things down to prevent the fire from spreading. There's stories of like people actually fighting the fire off snowmaking hydrants. Certainly like Forest Service firefighters like using hydrants, like charging systems, using hydrants for hose lines, using hydrants to fill brush trucks. So it is a resource, albeit like when a fire is gigantic and moving at like, it's consuming an acre every 30 seconds, like your snowmaking system's probably not going to save you from that. Okay. But for slower moving stuff, like there's resorts in Southern California that I've seen like that have literally successfully fought fires with their snowmaking system. Like it's been right next to them. It's water storage can have dual purpose. And certainly in the West, we're hearing more and more like, in the Tahoe Basin, there's some projects and things going on where the Forest Service is like writing letters of support for a reservoir that will be used for snowmaking, but also will provide water storage during the summer in case they need it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Let's talk about the evolution of snowmaking. Obviously, I don't think anyone's designing a snowmaking system with firefighting in mind, but
right.
It's nice to know that you could do that. But let's talk. So, snowmaking has certainly evolved. You talked about the roaring, guns that are on the side of the trail that you want to like plug your ears as you ride up the lift next
You
to
should
them.
plug your ears, probably.
Yeah.
Actually.
They've gotten a lot quieter, and I imagine the efficiency of the guns has also gotten a lot better over the years. So, what are those, some of those advancements in the last 10 to 15 years?
So 10 to 15 years, the big advancements. I would argue
or
the
more
biggest,
if you like.
or more. No,
Yeah.
snowmaking started in like the 1950s.
Yeah.
In the U.S. with guys like making stuff in their garage or in the vehicle in the shop at the ski area. And these were not efficient machines. Some of them actually made okay snow, but you needed a lot of air to make it happen. And really, like the big air consumption continued right into the 1980s when fans started taking off. Fans intrinsically need less compressed air. Compressed air is expensive. You're running huge compressors. You're moving air all over the mountain, and as like electricity costs have changed, whether it's fashionable or not to burn, like diesel fuel in compressors to make air, like as that's changed, it's pushed the snowmaking industry to be more efficient. So if you look at a snowmaking gun, one of those ones that's really, really loud, those things on a good day, let's say like if it's at all marginal out, so not super, super cold, you're using 500, 600, 700 cubic feet of air per minute. A modern stick gun, air water gun that you see on the side of a trail, especially in the Northeast, there's tons of them in New England and in the Northeast. Like a modern one is using anywhere from 20 to 70 CFM. So you're using a tenth, it's almost silly when you do like energy consumption ROIs with new equipment for people that are running old stuff, because it's almost like it can't be right. It's like, no, you're going to need, you'll use 8% of the energy you were using to make air if you replace this equipment. So, that's a huge innovation just from cost for the ski area, for being environmentally friendly and not using tons of electricity or diesel to make air. And then also the efficiency of the guns also has to do with conversion, which was a word I used earlier. I should probably explain what it is. And that is like how much of the water that you're pushing through a snowmaking machine is actually turning into snow. And the better your conversion rate, that means that your efficiency around your electricity use is, if you have 100% conversion, then good job. Like all your electricity is being used properly. If you have 50% conversion, you're wasting half your electricity because that water is just like flowing back down the mountain underneath the snow that you're making. So automation is the other, I think that's the giant leap forward with, in the last 15 years. We built our first automated system in 1995. But, in the last, let's say 2010 on, we're seeing a lot more automation. And automation means that your snowmaking equipment is always, first of all, you can run in short windows. So as we have, warm winters and you only have 2 hours to make snow at night, with an old system, it would take you 2 hours just to get charged up. And then by the time you were ready to make snow, it'd be too warm again. So automation lets your guns, there's snowmaking machines now that we're putting in that they just turn on. They have weather stations on them. They sense, okay, I can make snow. I'm going to make snow now. And it could be for 2 hours. It could be for an hour and a half. And they're doing it, and they're always keeping the air-water mix at the optimal level. So you're getting really, really good conversion. So I'd say that's how it's changed.
So conversion, what happens to if it's not 100%? Where's the other, portion of water going? Are you saying it's just not
flowing down
freezing?
the mountain?
It's remaining water, and it's dripping and ultimately flowing down the.
We call it leach.
Okay.
And you'll see, I mean, sometimes you'll see it, especially early season when people are really running on the edge. You'll see like a big pile, a whale, as people call it. And if you walk underneath that whale, there's literally can be like water running down the side of the mountain.
Okay.
So that's where the water's going.
Okay. And now turning back to the automation bit, I think of, certainly in my childhood, perhaps less so today, but I still see it, where you're talking about the snowmaking crews who are riding up on the snowmobiles, going to each hydrant, setting up the gun, checking it, turning on the air, turning on the water, getting them started. It's very labor intensive.
Yeah.
And what you're describing is almost like you can, sit in a control room and flicks. It almost, actually, you described, guns will just turn on. So it doesn't even seem like someone has to be turning the switches on to turn, to turn. Right. So it's been automated. How does that change the equation of a resort, and I imagine there's some expense to it, but how do you get from, okay, I have a whole bunch of hydrants and I have a whole bunch of guys who have to go out and turn the equipment on and off, to I'm going to automate, change my system and automate, and how does that, there's a payback period. There's obviously a financial analysis of doing this. How do the ski areas that you talk to come around to this? Because I imagine if it was greenfield, if they didn't already have a system in place, they would say, well, that would be the way to go with a brand new system.
Yeah. Okay, so automation, the cost of automation has come down a lot. So now, where 15 years ago you might have been spending like 50% more for automation. Now that number it's not that different than putting manual equipment in now. So there's really no reason to put manual equipment in at this point. I mean, it is a little bit cheaper, but from you're going to see 20 to 30% more efficient snowmaking just from, you could change nothing other than automating the gun compared to having people running the gun. And so there's ROI right there because you're using less energy, you're making more snow with less. The other big part of the equation, I think, and also a lot of ski areas with big manual systems, their systems are aging out. So, you mentioned greenfield, but there's also our system, the pipes are rotten, we had 15 leaks last year, this stuff is happening. That's a time where, okay, are they going to just fix everything and do the exact same thing, or are they going to change to automation? And that's mainly what we're seeing, especially in the Northeast, because they have some of the, kind of the original snowmaking systems. There's places with pipe in the ground that's been in the ground for 50 years. It's kind of done at this point. The other piece is people. And it's not I don't think about what we do as we're trying to put people out of jobs. There's plenty of jobs at ski areas that go unfilled every single winter. And it's finding the places where there's jobs that can be automated so that they can fill the jobs that cannot be. The more high touch, whether it be ski instructors or ski patrols or servers in restaurants or bartenders, all these things that require people. And snowmaking inherently is a miserable job. So it's we joke, it's hey, do you like standing out in the cold at 2:00 in the morning, soaking wet every night for 50 days in a row? That's the job. So not having to have people, as many people doing that as systems automate, you can go from having a crew of 50 snowmakers to having a crew of 10. And it's not that hard to do. I mean, I have customers that'll be yeah, it's not that hard to do. All it takes is money. But there is payoff for it. Especially as resort communities have become, it's hard to live there. There's not as many people and to do a job like snowmaking, there's a limited amount of people that want to do that job.
Sure.
As well.
Yeah. And so I guess one of the things you've talked about is the the lance type, the air and water guns versus the snow fans. What is the difference? I mean, why would one ski area pick one over the other?
Yeah, so lances tend to do really well on narrow runs, or catwalks, that kind of thing. Anyone that's skied in New England knows that it's not, a lot of runs are not very wide. So New England is like the home of the stick gun, and a lot of it's driven by the way the terrain is in New England. Those guns are, you will see them on wide runs too, and they might have more of them, and it's because they had extra air from a compressor and it made sense. From like a which is more efficient point of view, it's like the fan is probably slightly more efficient, but the fan also, like on a catwalk that's only one cat width wide, is not like the most appropriate piece of equipment.
Right.
So I mean that's what drives a lot of those decisions. Also, if you have a small ski area, putting in a compressor plant doesn't really make sense. Compressor plants are expensive. There's maintenance. There's a lot. So smaller ski areas now are almost exclusively buying fans because you just build a pump station. It's half the amount of pipe. It's easier.
Yeah, interesting. When we spoke, I mentioned the one local ski area that I go to, and it's, as I keep pointing over my shoulder, it's 5 minutes down the road that way. They bring in compressors, right? They from United Rentals, they bring in those big trailer compressors, three of them, and I have them all lined up, connected to the air pipe, and that's what they use for the 3 or 4 months of snowmaking that they need them. And I was there over the weekend. They don't have them yet, so they wait till the last moment to rent them and connect them.
It makes sense though.
Yeah. So the I guess in terms of the energy, we also touched on this in terms of other sort of advancements in the technology, and reservoirs, particularly reservoirs that are up on top of a mountain, is in effect energy storage. Mm-hmm. And I know there have been systems, and I don't know if TechnoAlpin is involved in this, where when water runs back down through the pipe after you've turned off the pumps, you can recapture the energy through turbines that basically as the water flows back through them, but also reservoirs that are up on the hill can be effectively energy batteries or storage systems. Does TechnoAlpin get involved in that, or whether directly or as an adjacent partner?
No, we do. We have systems where we're generating hydroelectric power when the systems are off. They're all in Europe right now. Switzerland, Austria, France. And, we have U.S. customers that we are talking to about this, and I think we will start seeing this in the U.S. in the next few years. And it takes specific site conditions. Not every mountain can do this. Some have reliable water that's flowing down the mountain all year round. That's another opportunity where, if their snowmaking reservoirs constantly releasing water all summer because there's always water going into it, that's the ideal, right? Right. Because it's not even water that you pumped up there at one point. It's just water that is constantly refilling. And you can use the system through a turbine to generate power. And, we've seen it be quite successful in Europe. And I'm excited to do the first one here. And I think we will see that in the next couple of years.
That's cool. I think there's so many interesting, integrations with other systems to make things more efficient. Obviously generating power, considering the amount of energy that a snowmaking system utilizes. If you can also use it to regenerate or generate power on an ongoing basis, makes a whole lot of sense. So in that vein, what is, I've seen this term used elsewhere, a responsible snowmaking program look like? I mean, I don't know if that's an industry term or just somewhere on the internet that I happen to stumble across. But is there such a thing? And what does it look like?
Yeah,
in
no, I would
world?
say that there is. I mean, I think right now it's like there's a mix of like, okay, what would be the ultimate, goal of what everyone should be doing is like automated systems that are at the most efficient possible, right? Like so systems that are using automation to use the least amount of energy to make the most amount of snow at the very, the cutting edge, right? That's the dream, okay? The reality is that not everyone can do that at once. Like the guys down the street from you or whatever that you were talking about, like there's a reason they don't really want to have to rent compressors and do this every year. But there's financial reality as well.
Yeah.
So to me, like what is responsible snowmaking is being like keeping it maintained properly and being as efficient as you can with the resources that you have. So, and there are like, so that place, it could simply be, and I'm sure they might be doing this. Like lots of places that are in that situation are doing this, where they can't replace their whole infrastructure. They're not going to, build a huge new pump station or something. Or they have power constraints where it'll cost, millions of dollars to get the utility to even bring them enough power to put fans in. Like all these factors are out there.
Yeah.
But what they can do is buy new guns that are using less air. And you could cut that air down by a lot. And so it could turn, maybe those 3 compressors used to be 9 compressors. Or, and as that moves forward, the responsible thing is like, hey, let's find a way to get to 2 compressors or to 1 compressor. And so to me, that's like what, is being like a responsible ski area with snowmaking looks like.
Right. They aren't replacing the whole system. We used to joke at the friends of mine that we would joke around about that their major capital improvement was the water fountain with bottle filler.
Nice. Yeah.
But they do have a new lift going in, so that'll be new for this year.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we've touched on this the skill set that snowmakers actually will change. I guess that's an interesting. Not only will there be fewer snowmakers, but presumably the skill set that they need to have will be slightly different, right? As opposed to I'm making this up, but welders to fix the pipe and effectively plumbers on a very large system. They may need some technical skills around the control systems that they're operating, et cetera. Like, is there a change in the skill set that a more modern snowmaker will need to have moving forward?
Yes. And like we're seeing it, and it actually fits kind of the generational change really well. Like it's organically happening. So like people that are, first of all, you do not need to be like a computer scientist to run a modern snowmaking system, but like you do need to like know how to use a PC. Okay. And so yes, there are the old guard that are used to like turning a huge regulation valve wheel to change flow in a pump station and like manually turning on these huge breakers and and welding stuff, or like, hey, how do you fix that snow gun? It's like, go bang on it with this hammer. Like those guys are fewer and fewer at this point. And there's still a place for those people. Like pipes still need to be welded. Like that's not going to change. But there is a piece with technological savvy, and certainly like, when you get into the snowmaking machines, particularly with full auto fan guns, all the manufacturers, including us, like we have service technicians that can help with like, we've got to reprogram this thing or the PLC work and that kind of stuff. But the more kind of computer technologically savvy the skill set on the modern snowmaker, the more the mountain can do themselves to keep everything running. So, yeah, it's changing for sure.
We talk about automation, and maybe I'm using this sort of too broadly, but is there is AI effectively playing a role in this? I mean, I don't know that you mentioned the automated fans that turn on and off, depending on weather. I wouldn't consider that necessarily AI, but we're getting.
Yeah, it's not AI, but
is AI going to find its way into snowmaking at some point? I mean, let's talk about the future more broadly. Whether it's AI
I mean,
or
AI is finding its way in.
Yeah,
it's like little pieces at this point, and it's like I should differentiate the difference between like remote control and automation. Like remote control is I sit at the computer and I say, or the gun, it has a thermometer on it and I've set points and the computer tells it when it hits, 27, do this, or I have to tell it turn on, whatever.
Right.
Automation is like the system is smart. So like if you went into Atos Pro, which is it's our operating system, and you'll see your whole mountain, and the mountain will tell you, like all the guns have weather stations in them and are reading humidity, temperature, all that kind of stuff. Some have anemometers, so it's like, is the wind direction appropriate? Is the wind speed okay? All that good stuff. And then the guns step and do everything themselves, and it's all just feeding into the central system. It's telling the pump station how much water it needs to be pumping. As you max out your pump station, you could have priorities set where it's letting some guns go further than others in their steps to make more snow in that area. The next kind of step of that, and a lot of this exists now, is so that it's predictive as well. So the system is looking at the weather forecast, and the AI piece is that all the places, so there's multiple forecasts that it can see, and all the places on the mountain, the longer that those weather stations have been there, they're learning how they relate to the 3 weather forecasts. Mm-hmm. And then in turn, the operating system is telling you, it's showing you, it's like in colors, it's like red to blue, and it changes blue, 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 blue as you can actually run. It's saying, okay, at 10 o'clock tonight, these first guns are going to start to turn on or be able to turn on. And then, it kind of shows, okay, so we're going to get 9 hours of run time. When we peak out, we're going to have 50 guns. When we start, we're going to have 10. When we shut down, we're going to have 5 left running in this one area. And I think the AI piece is the system learning how it relates to like the world at large. And I mean, no one's going to sit there and look at 100 snowmaking machines and, every day enter, oh, this one actually was able to do this in the weather forecast. Like that's a place where AI is like the only way it's going to happen, where you need some kind of, machine learning. So
a few things in there. One is at this time of year, early, before most ski areas here in the east have opened, although there's a few now, and by the time this episode is published, probably a few more. You could effectively set up a system to say, hey, I'm in non-open mode, meaning the mountain isn't open. Turn on whenever available, effectively, right? And it's just going to make snow whenever it can, and wherever it can on the mountain. And then during operating season, you can change the parameters. Say, hey, I don't want snow guns blowing during from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. like when the lifts are running, basically. Right, and so change the parameters and make the guest experience better, because who likes to go through a right by a snow gun?
No, it's not fun.
But one other question for you is, you talked about the automation, and I think you mentioned whales earlier. Those whales are going to build up, and I know guys reposition the snow guns to.
Yeah, you don't really want big whales. It's just because then you have to do a lot of cat work.
Right. So does the gun, like, will it change its aim and where?
Yeah, fan guns move. So automated fan guns will oscillate. They'll change based on wind direction. Mm-hmm. And they also, so like, I think you kind of almost touched on this, where like once you're in operating mode, and even as in the build up to the season, you can say on this run, I need 25 inches of snow. That's my goal, or whatever it may be. And the machines know how much water that takes, and they know the runtime, and they actually know how much might be melting as they're watching the weather along that as well. And they're going for that. The next step, especially once you get into operating season, is modern snowcats have LiDAR. So they know how much snow is underneath them. So as they're driving around using Leica or SnowSat, or there's a few different technologies out there, that can be integrated into your snowmaking operating system. So that cat is out driving around. It's constantly telling Autos how much snow is out there. And if the snowmaking system sees that, like, oh, we're low in this area,
right,
only those guns will turn on to fix that.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the future of how this is all working, right?
So an efficient snowmaking system not only saves energy as it relates to making the snow, but also in the grooming operation and sort of reducing the amount of time that the cats have to be out pushing snow around, etc. I mean, they're probably going to go out and groom, and of course, we all love our Fresh Corduroy.
Yes, indeed.
So I had to get that in there. There's a dad joke at some point. But at the end of the day, saving on the diesel costs associated with grooming.
Yeah, and not making too much snow. There is such a thing. I mean, like,
is there? What is that? Yeah. So, I mean, I say that sarcastically, but I guess there's some truth to it. So what is, quote unquote?
Okay, like, so there's extremes of, like, you make so much snow on the run that, like, the transition from the side of the run to, like, the trees or whatever's next to it actually becomes a hazard, and you're starting to have to, like, fence it because you've created this. And you'll see it once in a while. You'll be somewhere and you'll be like, holy crap. But the other piece is, like, so especially if you're a destination resort, so you're not day skiers do not help you. There's not that many that it doesn't work, and you have to be open until your closing day is going to be the Monday after Easter or whatever, the second week in April, last week in March, whatever. If you still have 5 feet of snow on the ground on your snowmaking pistes, like, you wasted a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to be on the, like, super low side of this, but there is a time and a place for saying, okay, we know, here's the weather model, this is how much snow we need to get through, and not, like, sitting there in June and being like, wow, we still have snow on that whole area. That's not ideal. Like, it's money that you could have spent doing something else.
It totally makes sense. And just so I used to bike race, and I heard somebody say this once upon a time, and it was effectively the same thing. If you have to use your brakes, it means you've pedaled too much previously.
Right? Yeah, no, it's same idea, right?
Yeah. So, right. I guess if you're closing the mountain and you still have 2 feet of depth on all your trails, you're, depending on where you are, you've wasted some money.
Yep, for sure.
Well, that's great. So, as we just as a wrap up, what would you want skiers to understand about what goes into creating the perfect December surface, the fresh corduroy that we all love so much?
I mean, what would I
especially
want
especially this time of year, like as the season's just starting. Absent snowmaking, they probably wouldn't be starting skiing as early as they are.
I mean, first of all, like, appreciation for all the people out there working and making it happen, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work during the summer maintaining the system, and it's like right now running is like the prize for all the people that work on that snowmaking system all year round. And also, like, it's not fake snow.
Yeah, I will never use that term. Yeah.
It's and not that it, like, drives me crazy or I'm, like, offended by it, but, like, good machine made snow that's groomed, that's fresh corduroy, as you said.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't really be able to tell the difference.
Yeah.
So, and actually, to some degree, machine made snow grooms better natural snow does in some cases. So
I'm sure. I had the manager of grooming for Killington and Pico on last season, and we talked about the different ways of grooming, and both for the general public and for the World Cup race that they hold there, and the different.
We have a different setting entirely in our snow machines for technical snow, and it's not snow that you would want to ski on if you're the. It's not snow I want to ski on.
Right. Do you, out of curiosity, I said we were going to wrap up, but do you also make the metal bars that they use to inject the snow with water?
No,
in advance?
No. We can actually make the snowmaking system make snow so you don't have to inject.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember viewing the slope, Solden is it's all TechnoAlpin equipment on the side.
We are the official partner of FIS, by the way.
Okay, so fantastic. So all the snow that was, obviously it's a glacier, but they made a lot of snow as well on top of it at Solden to get that up and running for the races. So
on the Rettenbach,
yes, terrific.
It's a cool system right there. But they're making like heinously wet snow. It's like it's the consistency of like oatmeal, like wet oatmeal before it freezes all the way. It's brutal.
It's perhaps a topic for another day, but I grew up ski racing. My son grew up ski racing. Like hard snow, ice is appreciated. Because the flip side is, and my son called it. He went to some races in the spring, late March, let's say, at I can't remember, Sunday River or Sugarloaf, and he literally called it trench warfare.
Yeah, it's dangerous. It's hard.
He was starting in the back, and by the time he was running, the ruts were trenches, and it wasn't a fun day. So
right, you're like, you got boots hitting the snow. It's not cool.
It's like, why did I bother going? That was more the response. But well, listen, Taylor, I really appreciate chatting with you. It was super informative for me. Hopefully, the listeners are getting something out of this too. I'm sure we've got a few nerds I know who will be listening to this.
I hope so. And thanks so much for talking to me and letting me be on.
My pleasure. All right. Have a great day.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Fresh Corduroy with Taylor Ogilvie. I hope you enjoyed getting a behind-the-scenes look at the technology that keeps our ski seasons alive. If you like the episode, the best way you can support the show is to share it with a friend who loves skiing as much as you do. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on Fresh Corduroy.